So this video is going to be two things. We're going to be talking about the updates on the player at question, the guy who's in the thumbnail, the title. Everybody knows who we are talking about today. But we're also going to be talking about some other guys, an interesting sort of perspective on the player at hand and how he relates to some other guys that are going to be taken later in this year's 2023 draft. So, without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. I decided to make a video about Juraj Slafkovsky today, the Montreal Canadiens' first overall pick from the 2022 NHL entry draft, and just sort of give a nice little update as to everything that's been going on. Now, don't get me wrong, there isn't really a whole bunch to talk about. There isn't any particular big game-changing update that needs to go out there and be established. But when it comes to Juraj Slafkovsky, we all kind of got ourselves a short sneak peek as to what he could potentially be heading into the next few years of Canadiens hockey. And the reason I say it like that is because the guy only played half the year before being sidelined for the rest of the season. He had 10 points in that sample. He wasn't particularly amazing, but the fact is, at 18 years old, he was a big behemoth of a man that was able to play in the NHL and not look terribly out of place. There are all the other conversations you can have about readiness. Was he fully ready? What does he need to work on? All the things like keeping his head up, etc., etc. Those are things that we've talked about in the past. But for the past few months, it has pretty much just been sort of nothing on Slafkovsky. Oh, we know he's recovering. Oh, we know he's back in Slovakia. He's finishing up his high school tests or whatever it was that he was doing over there. But for the first time in a while, we actually do have ourselves some tangible news regarding Slafkovsky and his status. It was posted earlier on Twitter, but it looks like Slafkovsky is indeed back in Slovakia, training for next season. And attached are some images of him wearing Canadiens gear and practicing on Slovak rinks. It's nice to see him going out there and actually getting some reps in. You also had yourselves about a week ago, Slafkovsky joined by Filip Mesar and Slovak hockey sensation Nela Luposanova on Slovak TV. Now, I don't know if anybody else is too familiar with Luposanova, but this woman is... oh my goodness, go ahead and do some research on her. She is phenomenal at the game of hockey. She's only 15 years old, but my gosh, this could be the next best women's hockey player ever. No wonder she was invited onto the show with Mesar and Slafkovsky, but either way, when it comes to the actual reason we're making this video, it doesn't really have anything to do with Slafkovsky and his progression, or how he's practicing again, or how he's on Slovak TV. What I wanted to do was go over to a tweet made by Brian Wild. What he did was he brought up Juraj Slafkovsky's last year World Championship performance for Team Slovakia, and compared that with prospects in this year's draft who were also representing their teams at the tournament. Now, when it comes to Slafkovsky, part of the reason that he was even put on a pedestal to go first overall towards the tail end of last season was because of that Slovak performance in 2021-2022. He suited up for Team Slovakia at the World Championships. He had 9 points in 8 games played. This was one of the multiple times he had played for Team Slovakia. At the under-18s, he had 11 points in 6 games. He also had the Olympic stint where he had 7 goals in 7 games played as a 17-year-old. So even though his production with TPS in the Finnish Liga wasn't particularly amazing, it was everything else, the entire body of work he did internationally, that put him on that pedestal, and it's why a lot of people said, wait a minute, this guy has really got the potential to be something. Now he's a Canadian, and now he's here. But Brian Wild goes out there and says, if you look at the modest results so far from Adam Fantilli and Leo Carlsson, they actually do put a nice shine on Slafkovsky's World Championship performance. This is because Adam Fantilli, in the World Championships for Team Canada, the guy has 7 games played, and he's got only 2 assists. Now, we know Fantilli just had an amazing year in the NCAA, Hobey Baker winner as a freshman, best freshman since Jack Eichel and Paul Kariya to go out there and do the thing. He was the top point scorer in the entire NCAA at 17, 18 years old, and he's been placed in a position where he is a part of Team Canada after dominating the tournament with the World Junior squad. He had 5.7 games played back during that tournament, and now he has 2 points in 7 regular Team Canada games. You also have Leo Carlsson, who, at the same time, has 5 points in 7 World Championship games for Team Sweden. Now, he's playing on a team that has sort of given him a bit more of an opportunity, I would say. I'm not watching all the games for these World Championships performance. I just kind of have them on whenever it's like 2 a.m. and I need something to watch, but I've been catching a part of these games, and Leo Carlsson has really been put in a spot where they want to use this guy, they want to rely on this guy, and they're giving him those chances to really flex those muscles, and he's got 5 points in 7 games because of it. He also had 6 points in 7 games at the World Juniors, very good performance there, but Juraj Slafkovsky had a stint that trumped them all. He had more points, he had roughly the same amount of games played, and he did so for a Slovak team that's considerably weaker than the traditional idea of Team Canada and Team Sweden at the World Championships. Juraj Slafkovsky, despite the fact that he had a rough go in this first NHL year, still had that showcase from last season that rivals and actually is a bit better than what we're seeing out of some guys in this year's draft that you could say probably could be better prospects or long-term projects than Slafkovsky. Now, I'm not going to go out there and discredit what it is that these prospects have done in their own respective leagues, Adam Fantilli in the NCAA, of course, and Leo Carlsson in the SHL. I still do believe that if Slafkovsky had the draft-eligible season he had last year in this year's draft, you could debate he might not even be a top 5 pick. Like, realistically, that's how stacked 2023 is at the top comparative to last year. But just isolated individual results of the World Championship Tournament, it is in Slafkovsky's favor, and that's kind of why Brian Wild goes out there and makes this post in the first place. So ultimately, the point that I'm trying to make here is, for Slafkovsky, there is a lot of time to go out there and wait and see what he becomes. He is still molding himself to being that proper playmaker and play driver as a big force out there on the ice. Sure, you could say that other players had been more effective right away or have had better seasons. I mean, Logan Cooley just dominated the NCAA. Shane Wright was all over the place. World Junior domination, AHL performer, all this crazy good stuff. You have, of course, the second overall pick, Simon Nemec, doing what he did in the AHL. You could say that some of these prospects have had better draft plus 1 seasons than Slafkovsky. But this is sort of the philosophy of drafting as a whole. Kent Hughes went out there and said they wanted the player who was going to be the best in a few years' time, not who's the best right away. And so, for Juraj, it's moments like these where you could acknowledge, hey, there still were stints of his pre-draft career that showed off a lot better than players that we're expecting to become NHL stars as well. Leo Carlsson, as we had said, he could be the next Matt Sundin. Adam Fantilli could just be an all-around amazing two-way center who gets a lot of points. And Slafkovsky did have a better World Championship stint at 17, 18 years old than each of these guys. So you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, the Juraj Slafkovsky update. What do you think about him suiting up on Slovak ice, practicing with the Canadiens colors, and being on Slovak TV? But also let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How does Slafkovsky compare to Fantilli and Carlsson? Each of these guys all play different styles. And for Slafkovsky, you could debate that his overall projection into the future isn't necessarily supposed to be of that top-of-the-line, point producer, 100-point caliber guy like some other first overall picks have been in the past. But when it comes down to it, I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you want. But if you're looking for a top-of-the-line, 100-point player scorer, this player might not have the money, but what he does have is a very particular set of skills. Skills he has acquired over a very long career. Skills that make him a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you. Okay, all taken references aside, thoughts in the comment section below. I had to get that out there because that was really funny. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj Slafkovsky 9. And bye.